the Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Brad, I'm not sure. I was watching the Steelers game. As I kind of constantly remind this audience, I have three TVs going, so I watch three games live all the time, and I try to catch up on storylines on Game Pass and watch games and all that stuff. But Pittsburgh. I heard the announcer say Pittsburgh has not been 4-0 since 1979.
Yeah, that's really surprising since they annually go to the playoffs, it seems.
Yeah, it was one of their Super Bowl years. They're always a viable team. They haven't started 4-0. It's like the weirdest outlier.
Yeah, one of the most successful franchises in the history of the NFL, right?
Yeah, and you got to think some crummy teams have gone 4-0 since before then too. Wild. Like I think Washington's been 4-0. Really wild. One of the worst franchises in the last 20 to 30 years. Washington, I think, has been 4-0 since then.
Very surprising.
Very odd, very odd. But, Pittsburgh, whatever. They'll go 3-1 every 4-game stretch, and they'll finish 12-4.
Well, that's exactly right. For sure.
So, and now the Cleveland Browns, I've watched them live 2 weeks in a row because I wanted to get some answers on this team. And we've debated about Baker Mayfield. Well, I wouldn't even say we debated. I think we both kind of agree that we're not the biggest Baker Mayfield fans. And I think
you're a bigger fan than I am.
I am a bigger fan. I think I think his ceiling in the NFL is about the same as, in my opinion, like a Kirk Cousins or a Matt Stafford, or in my opinion, a Matt Ryan, who I'm down on comparatively in the range. So like when we talk, I know you just don't like him at all. I think
his ceiling is lower.
Yeah,
well,
go ahead.
Let's say it's not lower. Let's say it is Kirk Cousins. It's the same problem I have with Kirk Cousins. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to anoint him as a top 5 guy, and it's just they're not that guy. And I'm sorry, it's never going to be. And Mayfield went first. Being drafted first, man, come on. You get drafted first because you're supposed to be the guy, and he is definitely not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know, and it's hard because when that draft happened, I thought that Cleveland should have taken Sam Darnold. It's hard to compare because Sam Darnold, and it's a dumpster fire with the Jets right now.
Sure.
At this point, I think it kind of looks like you're being stubborn if you say, yeah, they should have drafted Darnold given what we're seeing. But I do think that if Darnold had a better go and a better offensive system, he'd be better. But you can also make that same argument with Baker Mayfield. I think Kitchens was a disaster. Like his interim head coach thing, I think that worked out really well. Last year was a disaster. And you and I were out on Kitchens in week 1 last year.
Yeah, right.
And, we had the Cleveland, as fans do, when they catch us on segments and we put these on YouTube and stuff, everybody says we're nuts and, F you and all this. Kitchens is, the new Jimmy Johnson or what, like people defend him until they stop defending him. But what I will say is when Cleveland made the change and they decided to go with Kevin Stefanski, I said, brilliant move. Because I am a big believer in Kevin Stefanski. I'm a believer in any offensive coordinator and any play caller that commits to running the ball. I've said for, 2 to 3 years now, Brad, that Nick Chubb, if he's not my favorite running back in the league, he's a top 3 running back talent in the league. Obviously, he's on IR right now, and they have Kareem Hunt to go with them. So,
wow, not a bad backup.
Right. And, that's probably the best backfield in the league. Not only that, but even 2 weeks ago when Chubb went down, Dearness Johnson comes in. He kind of picks up right there. The team can run the ball. And when you run the ball, as I said kind of during the offseason, is what's going to happen is Baker Mayfield on bootlegs and play action, he's going to get Odell Beckham one-on-one down the field constantly throughout the season. And that's what I've been seeing, especially over the last 2 weeks.
Well, that's exactly what's been happening. And look, let's talk about their point totals for the year. 35, 34, 49. Well, you and I could score 49 against Dallas. But true. Nevertheless, 49 and 32. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that offense has been talked about at all. You hear a lot about Seattle's and Green Bay's, right? Because they're putting up big numbers, but these seem to be right in line with it. Right? And so for the first time, I'm giving them a little bit of credit.
Let me say this about Baker Mayfield because, I'm higher on him than you are. I think his ceiling is quarterback maybe number 10. I don't think he'll be like a top 5 quarterback in his career. I don't see it happening. But that's not to say he can't, like as a fantasy football quarterback, produce top 5 stats depending on the system, right? Because we've seen that from Cousins.
That he can't play well with a good squad around him.
Right, exactly. And this squad, I'll say this, I'm impressed by the defense. Myles Garrett, like nobody can stop him. I wouldn't say he's as dominant as Aaron Donald is with the Rams, but he's close, man. He looks to me as good. You remember when Von Miller was all the rage and Khalil Mack with the Bears and all that? Yeah. He looks at like that level.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't put him on Aaron Donald's level quite yet, but they're different players because Aaron Donald's interior, Aaron Donald, you look at the comparison as like all-time comparison is like Reggie White, whereas Myles Garrett, you're looking at the comparison as like, is he Bruce Smith? Is he like a Lawrence Taylor coming off the like, what is he? But bottom line is the dude is freaking awesome. So Myles Garrett is awesome. And
and Cleveland, or better yet, Baker, I think he's the type of guy that can have a lot of success if he's just given discipline and structure.
Mm-hmm.
If the organization has got terrible head coaches and they're not teaching him the correct ways and keeping him in line and informed and all that, I think he's going to struggle. But from what we've seen so far, they've been doing just that this season.
And it's hard for me to say. So, like, they're running a similar offense, obviously, in Minnesota, right? Because Kubiak takes over for Stefanski, who left Minnesota. And I saw Seattle have some success blitzing off the edge on the bootleg side. Like, they're bringing corner blitzes. Seattle was doing that towards the end of the game in the second half against Minnesota. And I haven't seen really teams do that kind of thing yet because Baker's been eating people alive on the naked bootleg. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, defenses are going to start to adjust to that. And I will say that Odell Beckham, he's kind of interesting because coming into the season, and it's the fantasy football kind of mentality, and this show kind of gears more towards the gambling, especially when you and I talk. They're different things, right? Odell Beckham, people are sleeping on him, in my opinion, because he didn't put up a great statistical season last year, and in my opinion, under a poorly coached Cleveland Browns team. And he was injured, and there are reasons, and yada, yada, yada. This year, I got to say, man, I've seen him streaking behind a defense constantly.
Yeah.
And as he had the 3-touchdown game against Dallas. That could have been a 5-touchdown game. I've seen him interfered with on those one-on-one matchups, the double move one-on-one. It's just eating people alive on the other side. And when Odell Beckham gets single covered, he's going to make stuff happen. And we're not even talking about Jarvis Landry yet, who's very good on the other side. But Baker Mayfield, I've seen him miss touchdown throws, deep touchdown throws, probably 3 to 4 times so far this year. Because I've watched a lot of Browns games. So what I'm saying is Baker, I think he's still developing. This offense, as good as it has been, you've listed off the scoring, can be better. And I'm curious to see if they're going to fulfill that potential. And it's on Baker's shoulders to fulfill that potential.
Right. He's got to elevate himself. And I think it's possible. I do.
I think it's possible. The question I have would be the same one I have with Baltimore is look, as a passer, I'll say this: Baker's a better passer than Lamar Jackson is. Like, I know Lamar Jackson's stats and all that, his 36-6 last year. But look, you look at Lamar Jackson, you saw what he did last year, and you want to say, okay, can he throw the ball deeper this year? Can he take advantage of matchups? And I'm seeing, and it's not just the stat line, I'm watching the games too, but the stats are like 18-30 for 2 touchdowns, like an interception and all that. It's just not, as a passer, he actually kind of reminds me of the ex-San Francisco quarterback, the polarizing guy, the guy that was kneeling at the national anthem. What's his name? I can't remember.
Yeah, what's his name there?
I keep thinking of Kirkpatrick. It's not Kirkpatrick. It's not Fitzpatrick. It's
Kaepernick.
Kaepernick. Oh, that's embarrassing. But anyway, he reminds me as a passer. Kaepernick went to a Super Bowl, right? I mean, he was good, but he was primarily a runner who could toss. I think Baker Mayfield is better passing. Obviously, he's not as good as a runner.
Okay, so one thing to point out is that the Browns in the first week of the year scored only 6 points.
Okay.
And that was against basically the only good team that they've played, the Ravens.
Right.
Which brings us to this week's matchup. How are they going to compete with Pittsburgh, who, like we said, is 4-0?
Pittsburgh is interesting because their offense started rusty. Their defense started a bit rusty. Their defense isn't playing, in my opinion, as well as we're accustomed to seeing them playing. So I think Steelers fans would agree with this. They're not playing as good a football as they're used to seeing defensively.
Right. But yet they're pulling out wins.
They are pulling out wins because, unlike last year, they have a quarterback that can complete passes, especially on third down.
Also, they haven't played anybody really. I mean, they beat the Eagles. We know how they're doing. The Broncos, whatever they are, the Giants and the Texans, who are so bad they got their coach fired.
Yeah.
So maybe the same narrative for both squads. But we tend to lean towards Pittsburgh because they have the tenure, right?
They have the tenure, and I think that Ben Roethlisberger now is playing better football than Baker Mayfield is. I mean, it's going to be interesting because Pittsburgh, you're going to have to score with Cleveland. And I was making the comparison between Baltimore and Cleveland. To me, like Baltimore, if they're losing, if they go down like they went down against the Chiefs earlier this year, Baltimore's one loss, can Lamar Jackson throw the team on his shoulders and come back and win? Now, Baker Mayfield has done that in college. Can he do that in the pros? I don't know.
He hasn't really done it yet.
I think it's likely this week with Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh will be up for this game. I think it's a massive game for this division in both teams. I think it's important because Cleveland is a lot better than I thought they'd be. Like, I thought they would catch steam later in the year, but they started hot. And I can't say enough about this coaching staff and what this team has done. But I think that they're going to have a slug match. I don't think that they're going to have the lead as they've had in the previous weeks, and I don't think they're going to be able to drop the hammer on the run game in the fourth quarter.
I don't think that they're gonna play well at all. I think they lose this week. I think they're behind most of the game.
I think they're behind, and so what I'm looking forward to seeing is how does the offense, when they can't rely on play action for matchups, because the defense is going to be ready for it, and the defense will, like, if Pittsburgh's up by like 10 points with like 7 minutes left in the game, you can't run play action then. Right? Because the defense is like, all right, we'll run out the clock. That's fine. Bend don't break with 2 scores. So if that ends up being the case, then what is Baker Mayfield going to do when Odell Beckham's double covered and he's got to fit the ball into space and all that? Truly, I don't know. My inclination is that this is a 1-score game and Pittsburgh wins. But the spread, let me hit you with the spread, is Cleveland +4, Brad, according to Bovada. Versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who do you got?
I think Pittsburgh actually wins by more than that, so I'm going to take them to cover. Although, even though this may sound crazy, even though Pittsburgh may end up winning by 10, I think the game is closer than that for the most part.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I have the Pittsburgh Steelers winning by 6 points here. But I got to say, like, it would not shock me at all if Cleveland comes out and wins this game like 40 to 20. Well, I don't know about a 20.
That would shock me a lot.
Let me say, because Pittsburgh's offense is good enough to hang with, even with Cleveland playing good defense. It wouldn't shock me if Cleveland comes out and wins this game by a touchdown. That wouldn't shock me. Because Cleveland is a legit team. And we've been talking about like the Las Vegas Raiders and the brand of football they play. And I like the Raiders and all that. I like the Browns more than I like the Raiders at this point. Yeah, I do.
I disagree, but okay.
Yeah. They got weapons everywhere. And the reason I like them is because they're missing opportunities that I think they can capture by the end of the season.
Yes. So you're saying they could easily be better.
Yeah.
Just 1 or 2, 3 plays away a game from actually being pretty dominant.
Yes, I do. I do believe that because, I mean, Baker has been like, 2 feet too far in a couple of passes that would even, this team seriously could be averaging 40 points a game right now based on the opportunities they've left on the field. So I really think they have that potential. Now, Pittsburgh, on the other hand, their defense can get a lot better too. And I really think that they're the more likely team to make the deep run in the playoffs, as you predicted them as a upset to make the Super Bowl for the AFC this year. Like, I'm not surprised by Pittsburgh's record. I'm not entirely surprised by Cleveland's record, but I am surprised at how healthy this offense is. So it's gonna be a fun one. That one's gonna probably be in my primary TV, man.
Good one.
Good one.
I like that one too.